Bryophyte, we have to see the detailed life cycle of an Riccia, which is an example of an bryophyte. The systematic position of an Riccia is division Bryophyta, class Hepatiaceae, order Marchantius, family Ricciaceae, and genus Riccia. There are several species, out of which 31 species are found in India. The habit and habitat, it includes about 200 species, out of which 31 species are found in India. All the species are terrestrial except one species, Riccia fluentans, which is aquatic. Some species found in the moist place like in streams, trunks, wet walls and rocks. In India, about 31 species grown in various regions. The external structure or the thallus. The gametophytic plant body is dominant phase. The plant body is a flat, somewhat fleshy green. It is dichotomously branched. Thallus on a mound, it repeats dichotomous. The thallus become rotates shape. The thallus is dorsoventrally flattened. It has a thick and conspicuous midrib on the dorsal surface. There is a depression in the apical portion. It forms a notch where the growing point is located. The scales and rhizoids are present on the ventral side, and scales are multicellular and violet in color. They are marginal in position. The rhizoids are present on the ventral side of the thallus. They are meant for the fixation and the absorption. There are two types of smooth rhizoids and tuberculate rhizoids. The smooth rhizoids are the long unicellular structure, and in tuberculate rhizoid, peg-like outgrowth arise from the inner surface of the walls. In Riccia cruciata, only two dichotomous result in the cruciate form. Each branch of an thallus is linear, wedge-shaped or absconded. Thallus is 5 to 7 mm long and 1 to 2 mm broad in the all terrestrial species. However, in a Riccia fluenta, it is about 30 to 50 mm long and 1 to 2 mm broad. Dorsal surface, the dorsal surface is light green and dark green or a dark green body. Each branch having a thick midrib transversely by the conspicuous medial longitudinal grooves which end in a depression or apical notch-like structure. Growing point is situated in the apical notch, and the main function of a mid-dorsal groove is to retain the water required for the fertilization. Some hairy epidermal outgrowths are also seen in the Riccia melanospora, though rarely. Ventral surface. The ventral surface of an thallus bears many scales and rhizoids. The scales are violet color, multicellular and one-celled thick. The color of the scale is due to the dissolution of a pigment in the cell sap. The scales are arranged all along the margin in the single row. In apical region, they are projected forward, and there are the two types of rhizoids, smooth wall and tuberculated rhizoids. So C is the dorsal side of an Riccia and D is the ventral side of an Riccia. Anatomy of an gametophyte or the internal structure. A vertical cross section of an thallus shows two distinct regions, upper photosynthetic zone and the lower storage zone. The chlorenchymatous or assimilatory region on the dorsal side, that is the upper side, and parenchymatous or the storage region on the ventral side. Assimilation region. A chlorenchymatous or the assimilatory region consists of vertical rows of chlorophyllous cells. These are the green dorsal on the upper region of an thallus, made up of somewhat vertical rows unbranched photosynthetic filaments. All the cells of a photosynthetic filament except the uppermost one are isodiametric and possess many discoid chloroplasts. So they are the synthesized. They use for the region for photosynthesis and synthesis of an organic food. Photosynthetic filaments are separated from each other by the narrow longitudinal vertical canals called as air chambers. These air chambers are bounded 4 epidermal cells or 8 epidermal cells. Each air chamber is open on the dorsal surface by an air pore. Air chamber space helps in the gases exchange. On a lower storage zone, this zone represents the ventral tissues of an thallus and lies below the photosynthetic region, that is lies dorsal lower side to the dorsal zone. It consists of an compactly arranged parenchymatous cells. These cells are devoid of an chlorophyll and contain starch as in reserve food material. The lowermost cells layer are of this zone form the lower epidermis. Some cells of the lower epidermis extended to form and scales and both types of rhizoids. Reproduction. Riccia can reproduce by the vegetative and sexual method. The vegetative reproduction occurs during the favorable condition, and sexual reproduction occurs either after the certain stage of maturity or due to the sudden change in the environment. So the vegetative reproduction, in favorable condition, the plant multiply by the following method of vegetative reproduction. First one is a fragmentation. So it becomes a method of vegetative reproduction. Death and decay of the older or posterior portion takes place as the thallus attains maturity. This progressive death and decay continue till it's reached dichotomy and separated the two lobes. Each survived lobes develop into the new plant. Next one is in tuber. In a species like a Riccia dicolor or Riccia vesticata, the perennating tubers are found at the apices of the lobes of the thalli in unfavorable condition. In favorable condition, they resume their growth. Adventitious branches in Riccia fluentans. The species adventitious branches similar to parents thallus may be formed on the ventral surface of an thallus. They get detached and develop into a new plant. Persistent apices. The apices of the thallus grow down into soil and become thickened at the end of a growing season, and these apices resume their growth during the favorable season. They come above the soil and develop into the new plant. Smooth walled rhizoids. The terminal ends of the rhizoid form an thalla as a result of a multiplication in Riccia glauca. These tips of rhizoid divide repeatedly to form a mass of chlorophyllous cells. These cells further grow into a new thallus. The sexual mode of reproduction also takes place in the Riccia. The sexual reproduction is oogamous in unfavorable condition. The sex organs are well developed and highly differentiated. The male sex organ is known as an antheridium, while female sex organ is known as an archegonia. Both the type of sex organ may develop on the same thallus, that is monoecious or heteroecious, develop on two different thallus. The sex organs may develop separate thallus. This is an heterothallus. Majority of Indian species of Riccia are monothallus. As the sex organs are produced in the thallus, the plant body presents gametophytic phase in the life cycle. Structure antheridium. It is a wide, elongated, pear-shaped structure arising singly. It is a short, few-cell stalk. It attached to the base of the club-shaped antheridial cells. The antheridial body shows two distinct regions: thin outer sterile layer called jacket layer and the central mass of a large number of cubical androgonial cells. The antheridium is enclosed within the antheridial chamber. Liberation of an anthrozoid in a favorable condition. When enough moisture is available, the jacket of a cell imbibe water and disorganize to ooze and out the mass of the androcytes. The anthrozoids are liberated in a semi-fluid surface film. Through this film, they swim and reach to the archegonia into the neck of an archegonium during the fertilization. Each anthrozoid is a flagellated and coiled structure. Flagella are motile organs. Archegonia is a flask-shaped structure, has few celled stalk, long neck and swollen venter in the tissues of the thallus. The mature archegonia is enclosed within the archegonal chamber. When the archegonia reaches maturity, the neck canal cells and the ventral canal cells degenerated from top to downward. A mucilaginous mass is formed. This mucilaginous absorbs the water and swell. It produces a force which covers the separate to form from the another by breaking the middle lamella. Thus, the neck canal or the narrow passage is formed from the apex of an archegonia to the egg cell. The fertilization, it takes place only in the presence of water. Water acts as a medium for swimming to the anthrozoid cells. Water is also required to rupture the antheridium, liberation of an anthrozoid and opening to the archegonial neck. The water retained in the dorsal furrow of the thallus after the rain and heavy dew. The anthrozoids swim and travel through the neck down towards the egg. A single anthrozoid fuses with the egg and forms a zygote. The zygote is the first diploid cell which forms embryonal mass by division and redivision. Wall of and venter become a two-layer and form a calyptra. Sporophyte. This embryo is developed into the sporophyte. The sporophyte of Riccia is a simple organization among the bryophyte. It does not possess foot and seta. Only globular capsule is present in the tissue thallus. It is a more or less spherical, having a single layered wall. The zygote produces a wall that increases in the volume and nearly fill with the cavity within the venter. Simultaneously, venter divides periclinally and anticlinal walls and enlarge in the size. A large number of spore mother cells develop within the capsule. Each spore mother cell divide meiosis to form 4 spores. They are haploid and arranged tetrahedrally. The mass of a spore enclosed within the calyptra is designed as a sporangium. The spores in the Riccia are not liberated immediately. They are set free after a year or so. There is no spherical mechanism, specific mechanism for the spore dispersal. It occurs by the decay of a capsule wall and or the calyptra and overlapping tissues of a thallus. The spores carried out by the air or splashing raindrops. Fully mature spores includes a pyramidal in shape. It have a 3-wall layer is spatially distinguishable: exosporium, mesosporium and endosporium. Exosporium is outer layer and highly cutilized. Mesosporium middle layer and it is also cutilized. Endosporium is innermost layer and it is made up of pectose and cellulose. The death and decay of thallus takes place and the mature spores carried out by the air or splashing raindrop. The germ tube become the spores germinate to being a rupture of two outermost layer, exosporium and mesosporium. The endosporium protruded into form a germinal tube. The germ tube become an 8-cell by the division and it is called as a protonema and form a new thallus. So life cycle pattern in Riccia. The plant body is ribbon shaped, dichotomously branched thallus called gametophyte. It is in green independent thallus from the single initial. Male sex organ called as an antheridium and female sex organ known as an archegonium, and the product of fertilization is a zygote that develop into the embryo. The embryo metamorphoses into the sporangium containing spores. They are germinated to give by the germ tube and develop into the gametophytic thallus of a plant body of an Riccia. So the alternation of a generation takes place in the Riccia, in which gametophytic phase is dominant and sporophytic is an short phase of a life cycle.